be reading a piece on Freedom Summer. I don't know how many of you remember Freedom Summer, but Freedom Summer existed back in 1964. And it was a result of hard work that Fannie Lou Hamer had been involved in. You all might remember Fannie Lou Hamer, famous name. This is a woman who was a domestic. She had a 6th grade education. She had her life threatened. Rumors are she had been shot at 19 times, all for asking one simple question. And the question was, why can't Negroes vote in Mississippi? Mid-50s, she asked the question, why black people can't vote in Mississippi? What's incredible about her story is that by 1964, she was in that smoke-filled back room of the Democratic National Convention in Atlantic City, negotiating with those powers the opportunity for African Americans to vote. And as you know, not long after that, we had civil rights laws, we had voters' rights laws that all were the result of her asking a difficult question. And oftentimes, it's not the question, it's the courage to ask the question. That's really what the challenge is. It ain't the question, it's the courage. I think about Esther. She's one of the famous women in the Bible. And you all know that Esther encountered a problem. She encountered a man named Haman who hated Jews. And Haman was able to convince King Xerxes that all the Jews in his provinces needed to be killed. And she was his queen, and she was a Jew. And she couldn't sit back and watch her family destroyed, watch her people killed, but she had to confront the most powerful man in the land. She had a difficult question that she had to pose. And she did it something like this, and I wrote it down because it's so eloquent. In the New King James Version, she said, if it pleases the king, and if you regard me, sir, with any favor, and if you think it's the right thing to do, and if you're pleased with me, then let an order be written overruling the dispatches that Haman devised and wrote to destroy the Jews in all of your provinces. She basically says, if it's okay with you, I'd like you to rescind that law to kill all the Jews. And you know what he did? He stood up and he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the wealth that Haman had. I'm going to hang him for the way he deceived me. And I'm going to let you write the law in my name that will replace the law that had your people killed. It's the same situation. You've got to have the courage to ask the difficult question, recognizing that through Christ, these answers can be very simple. Now, I've asked some difficult questions in my life. And the most difficult question started, believe it or not, about 35 years ago. I was in my 20s, and I'm in Detroit, got a great job, looking forward to a prosperous future, and I applied for a mortgage out in a place called Southfield, Michigan. Did you really? You know this is true. I was about at 11 Mile and Evergreen. Remember that was? I wanted to buy a house, and I got turned down for this mortgage. And this denial shook me up so bad, I can apply for another mortgage for 10 years. All because I was unwilling to ask the question, why did I get denied for this mortgage? But by the time I did get the strength to ask the question, and this is back before credit scoring. This is back when people used to look at your application and kind of make a judgment about you personally. By the time I got the strength and the courage to ask the question, I was a Christian. I had the strength of the Holy Spirit behind me when I asked this question. I was ready for the answer, and I was ready to do whatever I had to do to prepare myself the next time I applied for a mortgage. It got so bad that I met a beautiful woman here in the church. You all might know her. And God blessed us. We met. About 3 months later, I kissed her on the cheek. And about 3 months after that, I introduced her to my mother. And about 3 months after that, we got engaged. And about 3 months after that, we had counseling with Pastor Giles. And about 3 months after that, I asked her to see her credit report. Before I give you this ring, I got to understand a few things. We got to check this thing out. And there was some problems. But by that time, I had been to the mountaintop. I had seen what can be done to improve credit. And at that time, she was driving this little Chevrolet Cobalt. Jim knows, he's a GM man. Little Cobalt, about the size of a can of soup. Now she got a car like y'all wouldn't believe. This is some kind of car. All because there are tools that you can utilize that can improve your credit. Let me tell you one more story before I get to the meat of what I have to say. God's blessed me with a phenomenal job working for people at the end of their careers as they begin to embark on retirement. Many of you may not know this, but right now, I run Allegheny County's pension fund. This is an $850 million plan. We've got 12,000 participants. 4,000 of them are retirees. Every month, we do a $6 million payroll where we send pension checks out to our retirees. One of which is our saint, Millie Nash. Millie Nash is one of my members. And every time I see her check, I get a little smile on my face. Because I know that Millie's going to get a check every month for the rest of her life. It is a phenomenal plan. It's a phenomenal opportunity. But as you prepare for retirement, what I've found is that the foundation of solid credit really will catapult you into a comfortable retirement. It ain't the only thing you got to do, but the management of debt is significant. Amen. Well, I know that Curtis is going to come up here and he's going to talk about spending, which is also a significant step in this process. But the management of debt is significant. So what I wanted to do is show you 4 important things that you can do right now in managing your credit and improving your credit score. And if the AV team would be good enough to put the slide up, can y'all see it okay? Yep. Very good. Step number 1 is to check your credit report. That's one of them hard questions. You'd be surprised the number of people that get denied for debt that don't ever follow up by looking at that credit report to find out what was in that document that caused me to get denied for the credit that I need. So I encourage you to do that, and you can do it for free. I've put one online link to www.annualcreditreport.com where you can see a free copy of your report. I done got so bad now, I do it every year. I can't wait to check my credit. And at the end of the year, what I do is I send a reminder to our retirees. And at the end of the year, it's a little reminder that says there's 10 things you got to do as you end this year and prepare for the year to come. And one of those items is checking your credit report, and I also send them a link to do that. Point number 2 is to check for errors and dispute them. You hear this. People say it can be done. I didn't know until I did it myself that it can be done and that it works. So what I did was I put together a sample letter. And if the AV team wouldn't mind putting that letter up, I'll read through it and show you how it might help. You make reference to the complaint department for the name of the credit bureau. You'll send it to each of the 3 credit bureaus. You'll make reference to the dispute and the account number that you're referring to. And the letter reads like this: Dear sir or madam, I'm writing to dispute the following information in my file. The items I dispute also are encircled on the attached copy of the report I received. Now this item is inaccurate because, and I'm requesting that the item be deleted to correct the information. Enclosed is the document supporting my position. Please investigate this matter and delete or correct the disputed item as soon as possible. This letter works. It's worked for me. I encourage you to mimic it. Step number 3 is to set up payment reminders or enroll in automatic payments. Yep. Every one of the bills I got, I pay automatically right now. And I encourage you all to do the same thing. It is easy and it is painless. And I especially encourage you to do the same thing with your tithes and offerings to Triumph Baptist Church. Make a resolution now that you're going to add Triumph to your list of payments each month. You're going to include tithes and offerings, and you're going to go to PayPal, and you're going to pay Triumph at the beginning of the month or whenever you're paid as you do the remainder of your bills. And then finally, reduce the amount of debt that you owe. And you'd be surprised how possible this is. I currently live a debt-free life. I got so shook up back in 1982 or 3 that I basically went debt-free from that moment on. Well, I've got mortgages on my properties, but that's about it. Pay cash for cars. I hold a credit card for when I travel, but I don't use debt unless that debt is working for me to reduce debt. I promise you that. All right? Through Christ, all things are possible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think I went over about 8 minutes. I think we're going to have some time at the end for questions. But I wanted to encourage you with this. If there's anybody that I can help in this process, you might need to get a copy of that credit report but don't have access to the internet. Or you might need someone because they're written in Hebrew. So you might need someone to help you. They're not written in Hebrew, but that was the joke. But you might need someone to help interpret what that document says. Or you might need somebody to help you get these letters printed and sent. I'm available to you, as well as the rest of these men and women. I know Curtis Randall L. Lots of
I want to give honor to God, honor to the pastor's house, who's my golfing buddy, Pastor Giles. He is a pretty good golfer. But I had a quick story for you. I am a investment advisor, registered investment advisory. I own a registered investment advisory firm, and I deal with a lot of complex situations. I recently inherited a client who was referred to me, a woman who had been in the workforce for 40 years, who had considerable assets, however, was recently widowed. She came to me into my office, and we were excited to see her because she's excited about being a new client. But when she comes and sits down, she actually pulls out a bag full of envelopes and letters and lays it on the counter, lays it on the desk. And she says to me, Mr. Randall, I want to retire. I don't think I can. In fact, I met with an attorney on yesterday before coming to see you, and I believe I may have to file for bankruptcy. And we're like, oh my God, why is that? Due to her husband passing, she incurred sort of a depression, but also just decided to stop paying bills. The IRS, Social Security, every creditor you can name, car, mortgage. She was going to work every day, but she was not paying her bills. One of the reasons was her husband took care of most of the finances. He died 6 months early. She had no clue what to do. She actually wrote a check to the attorney and said, hey, Mr. Attorney, take this, file for bankruptcy, we're done. I'm going to die no widow. When she sat at our desk, she had nearly $80,000 in expenditures. And I'm not talking about debt. That's a different deal. My topic today is spending, because even though she was going to work every day, somehow the spending and the expenditures got out of control. Somewhere it got out of control. But we believe that through our system of working with her, we can help her. So one of the things that we did was we helped her with what we call the debt snowball. Many of you may have heard of that. But the debt snowball is just basically, if you have a $325 payment on something, you've paid it off. That's correct. Let's not take that $325 and go spend it anywhere else. Let's take that money and add it to another high-interest debt or something else we want to pay off. Through that step alone and her income alone as that one resource, we were able to shake some things up. We also looked at her FICO score. Unfortunately, she had a 248-point FICO score. Who knows what's the highest FICO score number you can have? 850? A little bit over 850. The bankers definitely know. But with a 248, that's definitely not going to cut it. No one with a credit will touch you at all. So the debt snowball was one thing, but also working on the FICO score and cutting out some of the debts. To boot, the company, the big bank, laid her off. So now we're dealing with a woman who's laid off, widow, $80,000 in expenditures, not just debt. The IRS is calling, Social Security is calling, all sorts of things. But through diligent prayer on my part, because she's a complex case, but also through diligent teachings, we were able to help her pay off all of her expenditures.
Praise God.
She went from a 248 FICO score to a 700 FICO score in a matter of 10 months. She also, and I typically don't do this for my clients, but we went to the car dealer and helped her negotiate on buying a new car. Through her retirement, was able to actually pay for the car in cash.
Praise God.
Which is awesome.
Thank you, Jesus.
Absolutely. One of the definitions we use is a prudent consumer is one who enjoys the fruits of their labor, yes, guards against materialism. That's one of the epidemics of our culture. All right? So, with that, I want to share with you guys, that's a success story. This woman just sent us a 2-page letter recently, and a card and a box of chocolates saying thank you. That's the best compliment, as you may know, you can give a client. And she's now retired and enjoying her retirement.
Praise. Thank you, Jesus.
That's awesome. But the number one principle is beware of idols. I believe it's in Deuteronomy 5:8. It says you should not make an idol in the form of anything in heaven, on earth beneath, or in the waters below. Materialism has saturated our culture.
Amen.
So, most people like nice cars. I'm one of them. I like a nice car. But if I can't have an affordable car payment, I'm not going to buy it. So you have the X6 or the Porsche Cayenne sitting out front, you got a $1,000 car payment. Well, that's most people's mortgage or rent, if you will. So we got to avoid that whole thing. The second thing is, second principle I would say is, guard against greed, things that do not bring you happiness. Okay, beware. The word says in Luke 12:15, beware. Do not be greedy for what you don't have. Real life is not measured by how much we own. You ever hear somebody who has like a bad day and decides they're going to go to the mall and just tear them all up? And then they come back with all these bags and everything, and they're even miserable, more miserable the next day. We have to guard against greed, and actually, the retail therapy is not actually therapy at all. The third thing is seek moderation, which, that speaks for itself. And then fourth, be content. Be content in what you have. You have 4 suits to wear to church, that's fine. Wear those 4 suits with all you got. You see some folks that actually go pick up 12 and 16 suits. But the word says in Philippians 4-12, I know what is to be in need, and I know what is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in every situation, whether fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through him who gives me strength, or I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Another one is don't waste God's principles. John 6:12 says, when they had all enough to eat, he said to the disciples, gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted. Think of the time growing up when my mom used to cook dinner, and we would pick at the chicken and get up from the table and be like, I'm done eating. She's like, no, boy, there's still meat on that chicken. You have to eat. People will eat that food, we would have to actually sit and consume our entire plate because that was a resource. You ever seen somebody walking down the street and they're ecstatic about picking up a shiny nickel or a shiny dime that they found on the street? I always find that fascinating. I see that little thing, but that's a resource. And then finally, I'm gonna end it with this: watch your finances, or in other words, budget. Every month, if you can just take a pen and paper, you don't have to do an Excel sheet and get all the stuff. Take a pen and paper and write down your budget. Mortgage, rent, car, student loan, whatever it is. That is actually a written financial plan, whether you know it or not, which actually tells your money where it's going before it comes in. If your money has a plan before it comes in, you know, okay, my money has a plan. I'm not going to actually go and spend $4 or $5 grand on something else, and I haven't paid these bills yet. So, I just want us to be careful to guard ourselves against getting into situations like the one we just had 10 months ago, because everybody's not so fortunate to actually meet someone who's going to help them. So, finally, watch your finances, watch your budget, and I am available to anyone who will ever, want to meet and talk. But, and that's my topic, the prudent consumer.
In thinking about the products that banks and credit unions offer, there's nothing different. A checking account is a checking account. A savings account is a savings account. An investment's an investment. But the reason that these organizations exist is pretty much the big reason, the difference between banks and credit unions. Not that one's any better than the other, they're just different. Credit unions exist for the benefit of their members, where banks exist for the benefit of the stockholders. So when you think about opening up that credit card or opening up that savings account or opening up that checking account, when you go to a bank, think that every time they're charging a fee and the way that they're making their money, the first group of people that get rewarded at the end of the year when they make a profit are the stockholders. They trade stock on the open market. So when a bank makes a decision to do something, raise fees, make a profit, they're doing it not for your benefit. They're doing it for the benefit of stockholders that may or may not even be customers of the bank. When you think about a credit union, we're doing the same thing with the bank products, only credit union products, checking accounts and savings accounts. However, when it's people helping people, we're a not-for-profit membership bank, or credit union, as opposed to a bank. And what that means to you is, at the end of the year, instead of the profit that we do make, we say we're not for profit, but we're not for charity, and we're for service. The profits that we do make, what we're able to offer you as a member is a higher interest on your deposits and a lower fee for the services that you use at your credit union. The other thing that a lot of people think about credit unions is, oh my goodness, I don't belong to a specific company, so how do I join a credit union? Basically, credit unions, large companies have their own. Sometimes credit unions are based on companies, special employee groups and special employee companies. Clearview Federal Credit Union is what's called a community-based credit union. What that means is if you live, work, worship, or volunteer in the 10 counties around Allegheny County, you're eligible to be a member of Clearview Federal Credit Union. The other thing that we have that's kind of unique is we have the NCUA, which is the National Credit Union Administration. The bank has FDIC, which insures your money at banks. Credit unions have the NCUA. It's an independent government agency. Nobody that's ever invested in a credit union has ever lost any money when they're insured by the NCUA. Probably the other main difference is they say it with a credit union, well, you only have, in our case, 20 branches. What if I need a branch when I'm traveling? One of the things that credit unions do is something called co-op branching. And what that means to you is you can go onto our website, enter a zip code where you're going to be, and through a co-op branch system, we operate like a fraternity. We don't compete against each other, so that when you're traveling on vacation and you need to stop and cash a check or do something in your savings account, you can walk into any one of the associate co-op branches in the credit union. And you can walk, when you walk in, it's just like walking into one of the Clearview Federal Credit Union branches, which is a very nice feature that when you move or leave, you don't really need to drop your membership, or leave your checking account or savings accounts behind. You can take them along with you. Today we're going to be, at the end here, we're going to be out in the, I guess your vestibule or your hall out there, and we have some information, a few brochures on some of the services and products that we have. But again, the idea that people helping people, which is the credit union philosophy, is more attractive than people helping stockholders, is attractive to you. I encourage you to stop by one of our branches or stop by our table, ask some more questions, and we'd be more than happy to help you with your financial needs. Thank you again for the chance to be here today. And with me today is Maria Piro, who is the manager of the Relationship Development Department, and Marie Saunders. Maria is our branch manager at our Moon location. And again, thank you for being a partner with Clearview. We really have enjoyed the partnership we've had with you, and it's just a lovely church that we have. Thank you.